This past summer I traveled to Plain, Washington to attend the TourTech Rally West. I didn't own a motorcycle yet, and so I roamed the facility looking for interesting people to talk with. And that is when I met Ryan and Jill Groseclose. This couple from Idaho has owned and operated Northern Rockies dual sport adventures since 2017. After a TourTech Rally attendee won their raffle of a weekend adventure trip, Ryan and Jill invited me to join the group so I could also see what they were all about. This is their story.
I started, I think, about the third grade. My dad found an old, I think it was a 69 DT 125, a Yamaha. And funny thing, it was an Enduro. They were called an Enduro at that time. And that was my first bike. I didn't know how to ride. He would put me on the front on the gas tank. He'd run the clutch, you know, and I'd kind of learn how to steer, and that's how I learned how to ride. I bought a little YZ80 from a friend of mine. Loved that thing, ran it into the dirt, rebuilt it, ran it into the dirt again. ITs, you know, I used to race in the woods. Had a great time doing that. I've raced all my life. I've raced the 24 hours at Starvation Ridge. I've raced local motocross.
Though Ryan has ridden Enduros in Idaho and around the Pacific Northwest for decades, he still seeks adventure in other places. It was during a few of these rides that he realized he enjoyed his riding so much, he found he wanted to share his experience with others.
I've gone on a few trips. You know, I've been to Baja and I've been to Colorado. You know, some other adventure companies. I've done trips with them, well, as I'm doing, it's like, man, our cabin would be the best place to do this because I've been riding there my whole life. And I love the country. And every time I go somewhere, it's like, man, we could do this. This would be so cool to share this with other people. And that's how it started.
And for Ryan, it's not just the cabin that is the selling point of Northern Rockies dual sport adventures.
We've got a pond behind us here that you can kind of see in the background that was one of the first things that we built in '77. We dug the pond with an old TD6. You know, it took weeks and weeks and weeks digging out that pond. It has a spring in the bottom. That's how it's fed. And I spent my childhood and most of my adult years in that pond. It's just a wonderful thing. And when you come up here, you get to experience all of it. All of it up here. You can go for hikes up in the woods. You can do whatever you want here, whatever you want. And after a long day of riding, my favorite thing, we get in here, strip off the clothes, throw on the shorts, and get in the pond. That's what we do. And we have floaties in there, and you just lay out there on the pond and relax, and it's just wonderful.
According to Tung Yoga Monroe, the pond was not the only amenity Ryan and Jillian offered.
The area, the bed was very comfy. So, the facility is great. It's just very accommodating. No problem here. And I like the outdoor atmosphere anyway. And I like the pond, I like the park, I like the view. The morning awakening from the coyote was actually I was like, whoa, what's that? But other than that, it was just great. I hadn't had any problems whatsoever.
Tracy Jeffries would agree about the accommodations.
So 2 great days of riding, and then you come back here and you swim in the pond, and you can, have your glass of wine and have a nice dinner and a great place to sleep. And Jill and Ryan are just the friendliest, nicest people.
While accommodations might be very important in an adventure, their rides pretty much right from the doorstep is what makes Northern Rockies dual sport adventures something a motorcyclist ought to consider putting into his or her itinerary.
I loved the first day we went, Ryan took us on a trail riding single track with his little smaller dirt bikes, and we went up through these trails, and I had a blast just going through the little trails, going up the hill, and it was a little bit of a challenge for me, obviously, being sort of new to it, but just had a blast doing that.
Ryan will rent a bike if you need one.
The first day that we rode here, I got to ride his Husky 501, and I had a blast on it. We did some single track and rode some tremendous, trails that were super fun, and got a good mix of things.
I thought it was well planned out. I mean, I've not experienced any of these adventure rides, so this is my first one, but I thought it was well planned, well executed. Obviously, he knows the trail very well, and it comes to show when he was explaining how things are coming up here. There's a nice tight turn, so you know, be aware of that, the switchbacks.
And for Ryan, this local knowledge is key for a business like his. And besides, he likes to show his state off.
Because Idaho is kind of a secret. Not a lot of people know about Idaho. And we have a lot of open country. Well, I'm not going to say open country. I'm going to say accessible country. And not a lot of people know that. In Idaho, we can ride. We can go ride. And I like to show everybody that. That's what I like to do, is show them what we have. I've been riding this country all the time. I never stop. I know this country like the back of my hand. And I can cater to anything. I've got skill levels from 0, and I can go up to expert, just right here from the cabin. So anything anybody wants to do, I can do it right from here.
Everything is customizable. We're willing to do whatever people want. You know, we have ideas of what is possible, but anything that other people can think of, we can do as well.
I've got a whole bunch of local knowledge that I can give to them. That really adds to the ride. It's not just all about, you know, looking 10 feet in front of your fender. It's not about that. You get up in the country and you look at the sights and you get a little history. You know, Lewis and Clark came across here, and we talk about all the mining and the logging and, you know, everything that goes on here. It's a lot of history and really cool.
By all means, he would be the ideal person in perspective. Like, if you're a beginner, he's really good about, you know, taking the right routes and kind of explaining things step by step. If you're experienced, you want a little bit of challenge, he could definitely challenge you in that aspect if that's what you want. And for our first experience, you can't go wrong, not one bit, in my opinion. Life is short, and you need to enjoy life, and this is definitely one of those experiences you definitely can't go without, my opinion.
If you'd like to know more about Northern Rockies dual sport adventures, please visit www.northernrockiesdsa.com or their Facebook page at NRDSA. You can reach them also at 509-780-2776. I am Spencer Webster, and this has been a Web, Moto, and Media production. Thank you for watching.